Oh, this sucks. Alright, I'm just gonna wait a couple minutes, see if some other people show up, and then I'll move on. Genuinely embarrassing. Okie dokie. Let's start over. So, I do all my board designs in Inkscape in Photoshop. I come at everything with an artistic angle. Not to be pretentious, it's just I am not actually any good with the electronics part yet. So when I really loved the PCB art side of things. So when I started making boards, I came at it hardcore from the art perspective, since that's what I really know. And layering and working with limited colors is something I'm pretty good at. I'm not very good at freehand drawing, unfortunately, and I don't really have the time to build up that ability. So I just I fake it till I make it. And doing things in Inkscape to convert to KiCad is like the ultimate faking it to make it, because you can make some really great boards with relatively little skill for all, if I'm being perfectly honest. So in Inkscape, you got to do everything with vector graphics to really work best with them. And for the scaling reasons, which will become more obvious later, it's best that you do everything with a vector. So if you need to like do an image manipulation of some kind, it's best to do it in Photoshop first and then bring it into Inkscape, because Inkscape's is really meant for messing with SVGs. It's not meant to do image editing and that kind of thing. You want to do that with GIMP or whatever you prefer to use first. So first I'm going to go ahead and convert this to a vector. And the built-in trace map tool actually works pretty well most of the time, as long as you get used to how to do it. And it works best with black and white images. When you're doing the board, which this foot is going to be our board, you want to start with an enclosed graphic, like something that's just one big object. If you don't do that, it can be kind of problematic later. So it's just best to start there. And so first I'm just going to go ahead and just design this shitty add-on first. And I want this to be a reasonable size, so I'm going to make this, let's just say it's going to be 80 millimeters wide. And I like my numbers to be nice and even, so I'm going to crush this down to 67. That way we get everything. And see, since it's a vector graphic, you can zoom in basically endlessly, and you're not going to lose quality. So even when you shrink things, it works great. So I'm going to make this upside down, so I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to flip it. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in our dope-ass sunglasses. And it doesn't really matter, because I'm going to convert this also to a vector. So that's going to be a bitmap trace. This one's always pretty straightforward. I'm going to get rid of the image, and here's our nice little bitmap. The only thing about doing pixel art traces using that feature is that with pretty intricate items, sometimes they don't come off square. They'll be like at a slight angle, and you'll get like something that looks like this. Like how, well, not as severe as that. It'll be more like something like this. And there's better ways to do it if you really care, but these things get scaled down to such a small amount that it's not usually noticeable. So unless it's really severe, I don't usually bother. Granted, I say that, and then like I'll spend way too much time taking it apart and trying to rebuild it. So that's 500. Scale down to 50. And on this shitty board design, it's actually I'm gonna name this foot glasses. And let's do, I don't know, do I want it up here? Do I actually want it sticking out? I think I want it sticking out. Let's say for the sake of argument, we're gonna make it stick out. Like that. Oh, you know what? Actually, I got a better idea. I have an even better idea. I'm gonna bring in Photoshop, because this is just easier to do in Photoshop and redo this. I'm gonna get weird with the foot. Uh-oh. Let's ignore that. Let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna reduce this down first. So actually, let's just let's add a new layer real quick and paint it black. Nope, white. And I'm gonna go ahead and cut the foot off, like, actually, let me do this. Let me just create a new layer. And you guys are, or gals, are seeing my, like, just super amazing Photoshop skills that I definitely have not been developing forever and are somehow not as good as they should be for someone who's been using Photoshop for almost 20 years. So we're going to do that. We're going to cheat a little bit, and then we're going to cut the damn foot off. Or preferably not right there, right here. And now we got a weird foot sock thing. And I'm just going to crop it, just for the sake of argument. And save it. I don't. Yeah, let's get rid of the big one. Doesn't matter. Alright, back in Inkscape. Let's take the foot. Let's kill it. Bring in smaller foot. Then, gonna make a vector out of it. Trace bitmap. Close. Kill the original image because we don't need it. And now we got a foot. And back to where we were before, but I'm gonna make this 80 wide. And so a shitty add-on connector will fit in a 5mm by 5mm space. So when I do this, I always actually create a little port that's about that size so that I can figure out while I'm in here where I'm not going to put it, because you want to make sure the copper layer doesn't mess with that. So it's good to think ahead, especially when you're just doing the art part. That way, if you're going to have like an important detail, you're not having it somewhere it's going to automatically get removed. So I'd like to put this on the big toe. So big toe. All right, nasty big toe. Looks like is shitty add-on friendly. Let's see. Whoop. Hold on a second. It's the first time I've ever attempted to stream, so I'm trying to make sure everything's actually working. Alright. So cool. Bigfoot, little add-on, big dreams. Alright, let's go. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and rotate this, because I'm going to, if I were to do this, I'd want this to be rotatable like that. And 80mm is actually not that big. Krusty is actually wider than that and taller than that, so I got a pretty good idea of how big that actually is. Actually, sometimes when I'm really not sure about scale, when I lose my sense of scale on something, I'll actually print it out. And usually I'll print it out to scale, and that'll give me a good idea of what I'm actually dealing with. So, all right, let's see. So I just put these glasses right here, and the one thing about when I converted to a vector, I lost the white background. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, what's this? That's the shitty add-on, so I'm going to rename that. And this is the foot. Interesting. Oh, that's right. I forgot the foot is like translucent. That's weird. But so what I'm going to do is, because when you convert to a vector, you can do colors, but I usually don't want to do black and white, because sometimes I want it to shine through, so I by default I don't fill it in. But in this case, I kind of do want it on the glasses, so I'm going to go ahead and real quick and just create a couple of blocks real quick. I'm just going to actually... there's a possible chance these are... Let's do this. There's actually a good chance I'm probably going to just stick to one, so... Let's get rid of the curve on this one. Ugh. Making stupid mistakes. So, and I'm just going to make this white and drop it down below, and we'll call it glasses background. Now, that's kind of like a quick and dirty trick to do that, obviously, because if you actually need that like bottom area, it's going to cover that up, but I can pretty easily just shrink this to fit that one little case. Well, that's not quite perfect, and I'm going to be anal about this. So, there we go. There we go. All right. So now I got my white sheen, which I think for this example, just to make things simple, no, I don't know. I'll probably do a circuit board. Come on, let's get my positioning correct. Alright. So, there we go. And that's kind of just like a quick thrown together shitty add-on front. And it is super shitty. But there is... So, the problem with you when you work with vector graphics like this is at some point you're going to have to provide... You're going to have to get out your actual board shape is going to come out as a DXF file. If you don't use a if you don't use the add-on or the extension that I'll show you, but if you do, then you're going to export this as or if you don't, you're going to export this out as a DXF file that you're going to import into KiCad at some point. And to do that, it can be kind of picky about the graphic, so you want a solid shape. So let's do that first. So I'm gonna rename this as Bigfoot, and actually let me see, sometimes this works without provocation, so let me just duplicate that real quick, and if I'm lucky, this is just gonna work without much of a fight. If not, then I'm gonna have to do something weird. So we're gonna do a combine for this, and it didn't do exactly what I was hoping it would do. Okay. So, all right. Because what I'm looking for is that this foot is going to basically come out as like one big black shape, and that's what you really want. So it's better if you use a filled-in object for that. I'm trying to think, top of my head, real quick. That's the best way to do that. Okay, so I should have started off with a better shape, with an easier shape. I didn't think about the foot. I was only thinking about the graphic, which was really stupid in retrospect. Let me see. There actually is a. Oh, yeah, totally forgot. I have a dirty trick for this. Yeah. So, easiest way to actually fix that when you have that is you've got to make a dumb shape. So what you kind of have to do is you really just got to create a shape that's going to fill in all this void, and then you can combine them and you'll get your solid shape. I'm apparently losing my shit since I'm streaming and I'm having to explain what I'm doing instead of just doing it. So I'm going to kind of come in here and just trace through this real quick. It doesn't matter as long as it's filling the void. The shape doesn't matter. We're not going to use a stroke on it or anything like that. We're just going to use a fill. And what's going to happen is when we combine the shape, sometimes if you combine the shape, you don't have to do anything extra, and you're going to get the result that I'm looking for. Sometimes you have to do a little bit more fuckery with strokes and convert strokes to objects, or to paths, excuse me. And that's a little annoying. So this is why I just fucked that whole thing up. I arguably spend more time in Inkscape than I actually do in KiCad at this point, because by the time I come into Inkscape, I have a really good idea of what I do in KiCad. So I spend most of my time doing tweaks and things like that in Inkscape, because I'm anal retentive about particular details. Like, it's not a big deal on this because I'm just throwing it together, but like when I work on actual projects, I don't like sharp corners on graphics because it's a sign of basically laziness, unless it's supposed to be a sharp corner. If it's a board itself, I really don't like sharp corners, because I don't like boards. I don't like boards that have sharp edges on them. They kind of don't feel so good when they stab you in the side when they're swinging from your neck at a conference. And it's also not that big of a deal to undo it, so there's no real excuse. And I'm gonna... I didn't really need to include the glasses in that, but I'm going to anyway. I'm gonna kill the stroke on this. And I'm gonna do the fill. Actually, it's black, so... And I'll drop that to the back. And so you see, it filled it in. So what I really want is to get my board shape out of this, ultimately. So I'm just gonna call this foot fill because that's a weird name. And I'm gonna duplicate these, and with them all still selected, I'm gonna go ahead and come in here and do a combine. And that is basically what I'm looking for. Now the final moment of truth. Actually, I might have messed up in one area. We'll find out in a second. I want to click on that. Yeah, see, that's not good. So this is just a bunch of extra nodes, and it'll really screw up what you're going for. So I'm actually going to kill that. I'm going to expand this out a little further for now. Oh, nice graphical glitch. And I'm going to do this again. Let's see. I also might have chosen the wrong thing now that I think about it. So foot, fill, glass, background, duplicate that, and path. Let's do a union. Yep, union was the right one. I just picked the wrong thing. Okay, so this is ultimately going to be our board outline, and I'll show more about that when we get to that point. But it's good that you do this, you get this put together now at the early stages versus later, because if it ends up being a really complicated shape that you can't quite get your board outline, it's going to kind of fuck your day up, and you're going to spend a lot of time on it. And that super sucks. So, alright. So now that I got this out of the way, I'm going to undo the move for it. I'm going to kill the foot fill because I don't need it. I'm going to keep the foot. I'm going to call this outline. And I'm pretty happy with the overall shape. So I'm going to go ahead and do something. I actually learned this technique from the N9XOR guys. Specifically Zap, he did a stream, and he showed a pretty interesting way on how to align your graphics in KiCad by using coordinates. If you import all your graphics at the same size, you can just use the base coordinate to align everything. I'm ashamed to say that I did it the super hard way manually until I saw him do that. So keeping that in mind, when you make molds and things like that in real life, if you've ever seen how they do molds, they do something called registration, which is where you create marks that kind of just act as points so that the mold will come together smoothly, and it can only fit together one way. But in reference to KiCad, what I do is I'm going to make a shape. Actually, I'm going to make a new layer quick. I'm just going to call it registration because I'm only going to use it temporarily. And let's see, how big is this combined shape? It's 50 by 80. So I'm going to make this registration, we'll say 60 by 90. And it's not going to matter, and you'll see why later. So I'm just going to make this 60 by 90, 90, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a stroke on it for 1 millimeter. I'm gonna make this stroke black, and I'm gonna kill the fill. And I put in the wrong code for that. So, and then I'm gonna align it so it's at the top of the page. Nope, that's the wrong thing. Page. All right, cool. And I'm a little anal retentive. I like my patterns to be centered to the registration, which is why, for some stupid reason, I didn't create it on the right layer. I'm gonna move it to registration real quick. And then I'm going to go ahead and shrink the document size to fit the registration. Alright, and now I can select all this stuff and go to page, treat as group, and there you go, I have it centered. And that makes me happy in my happy places. Okay, so if you're relatively new to the stream, let me just point out the individual pieces I got going on here. I got the foot, and I've got the shitty add-on placeholder, and that's roughly where I'm going to put the shitty add-on. I'm actually going to come in here and place it a little bit better. That'll do, pig. All right. And now I'm going to actually, you know, I'm gonna bring in this big guy, and I'm gonna convert it to a vector real quick, and I'm doing this as shitty and quickly as possible, so I'm not gonna really worry too much about it. And I'm gonna let's see, that's probably about 30 wide, so I'm going to say 24 wide. There we go. And we'll put Bigfoot on here. And for artistic representation, I'm gonna make them copper colored real quick. And so usually when I do this, I kind of do like mock-ups of colors and things like that. A good example is like, and I'll show you real quick, when I do Krusty, which is right here. Krusty started off looking like this scary motherfucker. And so what I'll do is I'll design the whole board in Inkscape. And these 4 colors represent the palette, and the palette is all the colors you can get out of a board. So in this case, I actually want this board to be black and white, so it's not that much of a fuss. But just for shits and giggles, that Bigfoot icon, we're gonna make him copper colored. And I just wanted to show you guys, like, this is kind of where boards start for me design wise, and then they get converted. So I'm actually gonna borrow this. I'm gonna borrow this guy real quick and copy him over here. And it's not important, so I'll leave it right there for now. And we're gonna just go ahead and use this as a sample. There we go. So now that is our representation of a. And actually, if you we're gonna design this so that we have a copper layer Bigfoot fella right there, because that's super shitty, and we're just throwing this together. So, all right. So now we've got our board design, and I'm actually going to go ahead and move this down to the Bigfoot layer. I'm going to drop it to the bottom. I'm going to rename it registration. We got our registration, which is mainly we did that just ahead of time. Why is that space? So that this is kind of like looking further down the line. We got our outline, which is going to be really important down the line. And that this is going to be the shape of our board. It's going to be really weird. And I just said I don't like sharp edges, and I'm going to leave sharp edges because fuck the police. Actually, real quick, I'm gonna round this off though. So what I'm gonna do is come in here and I'm gonna delete that. Oh, that's really bad. Let's be a little less liberal with that. All right, there we go. Now we can back it off. Add some nodes. Kill the nodes. There we go. That's slightly less stabby. And I'm gonna leave the sunglasses like that because that's kind of the whole point of them being like that. So we'll do it to this one. There we go. There. Now those are a little rounded off. That again makes me happy. And I did that to the outline. I'm not going to bother doing it to the actual foot because it doesn't really matter because the outline's going to end up cutting it off anyway. And normally what I would do if I wasn't throwing this together is I would fix it on the original graphic. So like I would do it on the foot and I would do it, well, I guess in this case it's mainly on the foot. So I'd do it on the foot and then I'd redo the outline. In this case, since I deleted the thing I used to create the outline, it'd take me a little longer, so I'm not going to bother with that this time around. So either way, we got a finished graphic. This is what we're going to turn into our board. So how do we do that? So if you do everything in Inkscape, which if you're doing this like I do, you should. Bigfoot. And really, this is just great for just putting together your graphics, your board graphics. So, all right. So there's this extension. It's called SVG to Shingen. It's actually it's a very good extension. I actually helped the person who threw it together. I was one of the first people to start using it. So thankfully, they've been really responsive to feedback, and they've gotten most of the kinks out of it. So it works pretty great. And to use it, once you do your graphic, there's actually something you do need to know. You need to know how large your graphic is, and you need to pick your biggest number. So since I'm using the registration, I already know how big this is. So my largest number is 91, and because there's a flaw to something it uses to convert to KiCad files, that it has to be perfectly square. The graphics itself doesn't, but the conversion does. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this real quick as Bigfoot, and then I'm going to save it again as Bigfoot PCB. And the PCB file is what I'm going to modify for everything I need to do that's ultimately going to end up in KiCad. So first, SVG to Shingen, and you got to prepare a document. You got to make it square, so choose your largest, whichever is your largest number, make it that. Click apply. It's going to create the appropriate layers, and it's going to change the document size by default. What's going to happen is you're going to have all these new layers: drill, silkscreen, mask, copper, bottom silkscreen, mask, etc. And if you don't already have these layers, it's going to put them in as disabled. Drill is something that you can also use. I don't ever actually use it personally. It's something I would rather deal with in KiCad directly. But hypothetically, you can. I just don't. So now I'm going to pop this back up, and I'm going to break this down into these individual layers. So we're just going to focus on the front this time around. So we're going to go ahead and do the silk screen. I don't know. There's a lot of black, but there's even more white. And white on black with that quantity doesn't usually work well. So this is going to be, I'm going to call this a black silk screen. So what we're going to do, I'm going to move everything that's supposed to be on the silk screen layer over to that. And I never actually move these layers. What I do is I always duplicate them. That way I keep the original intact. It doesn't affect what you do later. So this is silk screen. So I'm going to take foot and actually in this case I'm going to use my outline, the foot, background glasses, and I think that's everything. Yep, I'm gonna duplicate that, and I'm gonna come over here, right click, move to layer, run silk, and then I'm gonna hide that layer, and now this is what everything's gonna show on with silk. Actually, I forgot something. I do need to move over the registration as well. That's gonna become very important later when we're in KiCad. And we're gonna move that copy over to silk. And that doesn't really matter what layer where it's at. So at this point, when you're working with everything except for your edge cut, which is what your board outline is, you don't actually have to do anything special as far as it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter how many nodes it has or anything like that, because all it's going to do is convert it to a black and white giant ping. So what matters is that, like in this case, we're going to do this so that we have a black solder mat, a black silk screen. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that what I want in the silk screen layer is black, and since this is a black and white picture, it's already done. So we're already done with the silk screen. That was it. We don't have to do anything else. So we're done there. All right. We're gonna do Bigfoot. Next, we're gonna move on to the mask layer, and I want Bigfoot to show up in the mask layer. So because whatever you put on the mask that's the part of the mask that's absent. If you don't use KiCad that often, so whatever shows up there is what's ultimately going to be removed from the solder mask. So I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to move my duplication to the mask. I'm going to rename the layer so it doesn't say disabled. I'm going to close this, hide that. I'm going to hide the silk screen. And in this case, again, whatever you want to show up on that needs to be black. So I'm going to make it black. And that's it. That's my mask. And I am going to you know what? I'm going to do something with this. Let's see. What do I want to do with the mask? Just for the sake of demonstration. What do I want to put on a copper layer? Because it doesn't really matter. Actually, let me see. Let me do this. All right, I'm gonna copy the outline to the copper layer, because I don't like when I do copper layer stuff. Generally speaking, when I do copper layer stuff, I don't do it this way. But actually, you know what? For the sake of argument, I'm just gonna copy Bigfoot, and we're gonna put him on the copper layer too. That way, I don't have to worry about the rest of it. And so copper, front copper. And now the last thing, once you got your silkscreen mask, assuming you're doing anything with the mask, and your copper, is you're gonna need to deal with your edge cut, which is your outline. So I'm gonna copy the outline, show it. I'm gonna move it to layer, and I'm gonna show you the most important part now to edge cuts. Oh, hello, Chewbacca. Actually, I don't think I finished. Let's hide the mask. Yeah, I didn't finish this. Let me change this to black real quick. Alright, there we go. Alright, now edge cut. So, when you click on the nodes, you see there's not really that many. That's actually not good, because this is going to use it's going to use curves, and you can't convert curves to polygons for some reason when in KiCad. They need to be flattened. So the way you get around that is you just add more nodes. So in Inkscape, you go to extensions, you go to modify path, add nodes. The first one you leave by default. The second one you change it to 0.1. segments 2. You click apply. It takes a second, depending on how complicated your graphic is. It takes longer. The most important part, though, is that when you come back and you look at these nodes, they need to be on the outside. If they're not on the outside, you're gonna have a bad time later because you're basically your outline is not going to be correct. So, first, I just realized earlier I did not do the registration on the front mask or silk, so I'm gonna do that real quick. Just gonna move to mask and duplicate again and move to copper, and that's gonna become, again, it'll become more obvious once we're working in KiCad why that's important. So, okay, and now we're done. Now for this next step, you don't have to have your layers visible. If they exist, it's going to be included in the output. So you don't have to really worry about that. I'm gonna get a directory here real quick just to make this next step a little quicker. KiCad. Okay. Alright, and so now when you have more or less your board done and your graphics done, and I'm not going to do the back stuff. I actually usually wait to do the back stuff until I have a board in KiCad and my circuits in place. And that's just because you do some black magic fuckery to do more things than you should reasonably do. So let's go in here. We're going to export it to KiCad. And here you just put out your relative path. I'm going to put something different in for this. By default, your DPI is set to 600. Double it. Trust me, double it. Set it to 1200. It doesn't really matter in KiCad performance-wise. All it does is it's a higher resolution image. And the most common problem I see with people and their PCB art is, frankly, they just didn't use a high enough quality picture when they brought it into their software. Now, if you're using something like Eagle, that's a little more complicated because the way Eagle processes images degrades the quality, which is ultimately why I had to abandon it, but that's just the way that is. Threshold, I've left it on 128 indefinitely. If you're working with black and white images, it doesn't matter. You're good to go. And once you're ready, you can export it out as a module if you want. I always just do it as a PCB, and then I work around it. It's kind of lazy, but it's just easier for me. Because this will take care of the board and the whole project. And so this takes a couple seconds as it's converting everything. Once it's done, the screen will close, and then you'll just have the leftover screen right here. So that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and open KiCad, and I'm going to open projects. I'm going to come over to deal with it, Bigfoot, KiCad, and here's our project folder. And this is what a project looks like once you've exported it out of Inkscape using the SVG2 Shingen extension. And what you'll get is a PCB board. And there it is. And you can see the outline is exactly as I wanted it to be. And if we view it in the 3D viewer, there it is. Now, oh, I know what's going on here. So I'm going to change some colors real quick. I'm going to change the solder mask to be white, which was already white. So I'm going to change the... No, solder mask was not white. All right, and we're going to change the silk screen to be black. And apparently I made that like off-white. It's not really white. What the hell color is that? White. Nope, that was the wrong thing. Black. Solder mask. White. I don't know why it looks like that. Alright. Oh, I know why. It's because it's the board color. It's slightly transparent. But we'll change the copper finish to be brown, or more copper, so now you can see it shines through like that. And I just realized I missed something, but it's actually not a problem. I forgot to leave the registration point for, or I forgot to leave the shitty add-on area. But that's actually not a problem because it's not a big deal for it to be on the silk screen. But I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna fix that because it's gonna bug me. So let me do that real quick. Let's duplicate. Move to layer, and I kind of want to remove this from the silk screen in this case. I do not know why that just happened. And we're gonna set this to white real quick. And so actually this is a good opportunity because I can show you this next step. So I'm gonna first thing you want to do is you want to move your board somewhere reasonable. At least that's the way I operate. So I like to come and drop it right in the middle of this sucker. That's just out of habit. And once you have that there, and the reason why you want to drag everything all at once is because manipulating the edge line is kind of a pain in the ass in KiCad. It's actually individual little polygons, so don't do that. It's just better if you select everything and move it. And I'm going to actually spread out all the parts so you can see the individual layers. And also, because when you export them out of that tool, for some reason, it doesn't really name them in a way that's easy to identify. So there you go. That's our 3 layers we did. So here's our copper, which we're going to go ahead and start that first. Press E. I'm going to change this to say if that's copper. Oh, I fucked up. Actually, let me... Okay, so first, actually, what you need to do is you need to go on any one of these, go to Edit Parameters, and get the position. The position is super, super important. And I'm actually going to make a note of that right now. My X is this number. My Y is that number. This will make it easier to position things when you're making changes, which I'm about to do. So I'm actually going to spread this out again. And I'm going to change this to say copper. So f.copper. I'm going to change this to be mask. F.mask. And the reason why you do this is because when they're stacked on top of each other, it's actually really difficult to manipulate and move them. So if you have your coordinates and you name them, you can actually just press T, say I want f.cu, and it'll just select it and you're good to go. And then if you edit it and get in the coordinates, it'll go back perfectly into place every time. So this one, I made a slight change so that I would have the shitty add-on kind of taken out of the silk screen. I usually do that for the copper layer and not so much the silk screen layer, but this one's a little unusual for what I did. But I'm going to delete it. And while you have KiCad open, your project file can be updated, but it won't be deleted. So I can actually come back in here, go extensions, export KiCad, leave it as PCB, apply it, and it's going to reprint or recreate the board and everything. If you have KiCad open, it's not a big deal because you can just come in here to your part selector, select by browser. It's going to be named based on whatever you named mine, which I think I did Bigfoot. So here it is, Bigfoot PCB. And this should be our updated silk screen. And there it is. You can see the difference. So we're going to pick that. I'm going to click E to edit it real quick. I'm going to change this reference to say f.silk. And I'm going to go ahead and start changing the position on these before I move on to the schematic. So this is 15904400496. Done. Same thing with this one, but I already renamed it, so I'm just going to do the coordinates. But as long as you leave it open, you can bring it in. Now, if you create a circuit or something like that, and you close KiCad, or excuse me, if you close the PCB new part and you export that out, you just overwrote that file. So another good thing to do is actually, if anything, just come in here and do a save copy as and save a different version and just use that as your board. That's one way to keep yourself from accidentally overwriting your board when you really don't want to, which I have done before. It's extremely frustrating. Thankfully, I use Google Drive, so as long as I did it within a certain time frame, I can usually just restore an old version. But it's a fucking nightmare, so don't do that. So now that I've gotten this out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and do the schematic stuff. And I am going to cheat. Well, no, the circuit's simple enough. I can just do it from scratch. So I'm going to close this. I actually need to do my libraries real quick, so I'm going to knock that out. I'm going to come in here and go grab my libraries. User, that's Windows. User, my real name's Aaron. Deal with it. Google Drive, Google Drive, Google Drive. PCBs. You guys are seeing a bunch of projects that aren't even happening. KiCad. And I always preference everything by putting my tools. Custom parts. This is something that I use. I'm going to only use it for this project, even though I use it on all my projects. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in the shitty add-on one while I'm doing this. And then when I go into the next part, I'll bring in the library file. Bigfoot deal with a KiCad tools, shitty add-on, Badge Life. Next. Current project, finish, done. Library editor, component library. Let's add the shitty add-on one. Concepts, yep, cool. Tools, shitty add-on, live, okay. And create a schematic. And we're gonna throw one together real quick. And so we're gonna start the shitty add-on connector. Right here, I'm going to rotate it to my preference. And my add-ons for the most part are just LEDs. I don't do anything because I frankly don't do anything with them. I just haven't had the time to really learn. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kill these connections because these are the serial connections that I have no intentions of using. And now I'm gonna bring in the resistor. Or not. Oh, that's weird. I don't know why I was doing that, but okay. And I'm going to roughly place it right here. Bring in our LED. And I'm going to flip that. Another LED. Flip that. Actually, yeah. I forgot a part now that I think about it. So when I did this part, I didn't actually create a place for the glasses to have a shine through part. So I'm going to fix that after I finish the schematic real quick. So we'll just connect everything together. Yeah, what the crap? Of course I'm streaming this, so I'm actually seeing weird things I've never seen before, because that's how that is. Alright, and we're gonna annotate everything. Yes, Singles. Well, I'm gonna change the value to R51 because I use a 51 ohm resistor when I do this with the LEDs I normally use. And everything else looks good. So let's run this to assign the parts. I use a Osram top LED for a lot of my badges or add-ons. It shines through the board. It creates a nice little backlight effect. I've just gotten in the habit of using them because they're what I'm comfortable with right now. And I'm going to use top 2 of those. LED in a hypothetical world. Let's see. I don't know why it's not coming up automatically, but I use 0805, hand solder them, and then I don't know. There it goes. That was weird. And then we'll do the shitty add-on. Save that. Close that. Actually, run the check real quick. Make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, good. I'm going to generate our net list. Save the schematic. And that's it for our schematic. So I was talking earlier about the LED. Let's see. I'm gonna place it on this square. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to copy these two. Not from there. I'm gonna copy these two. Move to mask. Hide this. And what I actually want to do, I'm going to make this red for the moment. Because what I actually want to do is I want to make some of these squares red. Or black. So you gotta get kind of specific on the size for this one. Oh man, I hate when it does that. Yeah, now I just have a tiny circle or square. All right, so now I want that to actually be black now. That's white because I'm not thinking before I type. We're going to duplicate that. I'm going to move it to this one. Oh, come on. Don't be a pain on me. Oh, I see what's going on. It's just slightly bigger on this one. So it's not a big deal. I'm going to actually move these so they're just sitting behind. It could be a little wider. It's not a big deal. It's going to be hidden anyway. All right, and now that I have my reference for that, I am going to make the glasses white so that they don't show up, but they give the coverage and the correct positioning that I'm looking for. And I'm not going to fuck up, so I'm going to go ahead and open up PCB new. I'm going to save this so I don't mess it up and lose it later. I'm going to re-export this out. Now, hypothetically, you could do this as individual mods, but it's kind of a pain in the ass. And I found it just easier to export the whole PCB out and then just, because it'll, as long as you leave PCB new open, it's not really a problem just to save it and bring in the new footprint. And so I'm replacing the mask. So I'm going to go ahead and select the mask. And I'm going to kill that one. And I'm going to bring in the new hotness mask, which is this guy. Now I've got my little mask, and that's going to be where the solder mask is not going to be. and gonna edit it, change the name so I can select it easier. Mask, and I'm gonna go ahead and change the position to match those coordinates I was talking about earlier, so that it just goes back where I need it to be. All right, and now when we 3D view it, we see that there's these two brown dots that represent being clear. Now that's going to be really useful on the schematic when I place this. So because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in, I'm going to change this because I like having those dots. I'm going to go ahead and bring in our list. I'm going to read our net. Yes. What was it? And I brought everything over here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to check this, like that, glue in place, spread out all not already on the board. That way it'll leave all those other parts. And the first thing I always place is our lovely shitty add-on. So I'm going to drop my grid down in size to about that. I'm going to select it, come in here. And there we go. That's good. And if I really want to, I can move these around, but I'll look at that later. Now, these are all going on the back, so we're going to flip them. And I'm going to go ahead and hide our front silk screen and our front copper because I'm not going to use that right now. And let's place these LEDs. And I'm going to just eyeball this. That's actually not bad as it is anyway. And actually 2 is going to end up connecting to each other, so like that. Maybe this one. Right here. Like that. Bring in our LED friend. And I said I was going to connect it to D1, so I will do so. And it doesn't really matter where this goes, but I'll just put it right there for now. And one thing you gotta worry about when you're positioning the shitty add-on is since you're putting it close to the board, you want to make sure when your copper fill comes in, because I'm gonna cheat, or it's not really cheating, it's kind of what you're supposed to do, but if you're too close to the edge, your copper fill won't do what you want it to do. So it's a real good idea to keep an eye on that. I'm actually gonna hide this mask. All right, so my LEDs are placed, and you can do some cleanup on this later. But I'm gonna go ahead and run some wires real quick. I'm gonna increase this, and I'm gonna turn my tunes back on. And I'm gonna go ahead and just connect this, and I'm gonna do this in the least graceful way possible. Apparently. I do not know why I'm doing it this way. There we go. And connect that there. And that there. And I'm gonna... Oh, actually, there's one more thing. With the particular design for these LEDs, you have to make sure that you block out any possible copper fill. Because you can't do it when you're making the damn part for some stupid reason in KiCad. So I have to do this every damn LED every time I do a board. And it's kind of annoying. If I could just do it when I make the part, it would be easier. And alright, and that's it. And I'm gonna do quick copper fill, and we're gonna base this net on the D1 pad, and that should give us what we're looking for. Press B, fill, and let's come down here. Good, I had just enough clearance there. This doesn't matter, I'm not using it. If it did matter, what you would kind of want to do is you'd want to go in and just kind of move this up a little bit, but since I integrated it into the silkscreen, I would also need to go back and update the silkscreen to reflect that change. So that's kind of important. But that's kind of it. That's like the basics of creating a super quick shitty add-on. Now, from this point, you have a board that you can send off to Fab, and when you get it back, you can solder a shitty add-on connector or 2x2 header to it, your 2 LEDs and your resistor, and that's it. That's a working add-on for all intents and purposes. Now, if you want to do some black magic fuckery and embed, now the silkscreen you can just do whatever, but if you want to embed messages and things like that, or images into the copper layer, you kind of have to do something that I'm pretty sure the design rules check would flip their shit about. In fact, we'll go ahead and start this. Alright, everything's good. In fact, I can test that theory. That design by, let's open up the Krusty one and see what it does, because I've actually never run the DRC once I've done that, because it doesn't usually go well. So this is an example of like embedding images into your copper, and when you look at it like this, it looks like it's all one big piece, but it's actually not. Because if you so I'm gonna do Control B. This is actually me using a copper layer part to fill this in, and then using the layer. Now you see there's some overlap here, so when I click B again, it's going to take a second to fill in, but it's not going to fill in properly. What you actually have to do is you have to do the autofill first, and then place your graphic on top of it, and see. Otherwise, you get this. You get this nice gap there, and that looks like shit all the way around. When you view it in here, you can see this nice thing that's not supposed to be there. But so how you get around that, which I'm going to Control B this, is you oh, I didn't name my stuff correct in this one. Why do I always mess up? See, this is a project I did before registrations, before I started doing the registration squares, and you gotta manually place the shit, and it super sucks, and finding things and placing things is terrible. But I'm not gonna save this. So I'm gonna do a quick example of that, and the best way to do that is you start in KiCad. So in KiCad, you pull up Bigfoot, and by the way, this is what it looks like with all the layers. Kind of neat. But what you do is you export out an SVG, and then you import it into Inkscape, and you do the reverse. So what you do is export SVG. You only want your back copper. If you're gonna do something where you care about like existing silkscreen stuff, you'd want to bring that in. I'm not going to do that in this case. If you in this, I am going to, however, include the front mask, because if I do that, it'll bring in the registration. It'll make positioning it in Inkscape a lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and plot that, and you want to make sure it's black and white board area only, so on and so forth. And here, so I'm gonna do this all on the copper layer. So I'm gonna click on the copper layer. I'm gonna actually hide this mask. I'm gonna hide that. And so I'm gonna go to File, Import, and it should be in my Gerber folder. Yep. All right. And see, it brought in the registration with it. So Now I can position it correctly. And it's really important that the first time you do this, because you're going to actually do this twice, you do it with the full fill. Because what you're going to do next, now that I have this, is you're going to go back into KiCad. I'm going to hide my layers again, so I can see what the fuck I'm doing. I'm going to get rid of that, and you're going to come in here, you're going to delete this. Yeah, you would delete this if it would let you delete it. I hate when it does that. Alright, and then you're going to manually round this thing out. And this isn't so bad. We're running this on the back, we're running it on the D1 pad. And so you go around manually around your trace stuff. Now, admittedly, this method, is only really useful when you're working with a really simple circuits like this. It's a more complicated circuit. Obviously, the feasibility of this goes out the freaking window. But otherwise, this is a pretty good trick. So when you're coming around your add-on here, you actually just want to go ahead and just go outside. You want to go ahead and get that nice outline. That way it looks like it's supposed to be that way, and it looks like the software let you do something it totally wouldn't let you do before. Come out here, and you close it, and you close it. And then when you do your B to fill it, you should get your fill, and this is all connected, so it's still technically correct. It's all technically kosher. Design rule check does not freak out when you do this. And then you're going to export it out again, but with only this. And this is going to be your no touch zone. This is where you can't put a graphic, for reasons that I hope are obvious. So I'm going to export this as an SVG again. And when you do it the second time, it's going to overwrite it. That's why it's important to get it imported quickly. And I'm going to import it. And you'll notice this time it's got Bigfoot, because that's what I used. But it doesn't have anything else. And actually, you'll see you can remove Bigfoot once you dig down on this. So I'm going to do that. And first, I'm going to come in here, and you'll see that this breaks into individual pieces, components. And sometimes it brings in things you can't actually see, so I usually clean them up. All I actually care about is the outline. I don't care about anything that's inside it, I just care about that outline. So I'm actually gonna find Bigfoot though. I want to get rid of that. Is that Bigfoot? That's not Bigfoot. Where is Bigfoot? He must be in one of the... Oh, there he is. Alright, I'm gonna kill that guy. Ooh. What is this? Little Bigfoot. Just kill that. And now, really, all you really want to do is you want to trace this. Yeah, more or less. In Inkscape. So I'm going to come in here. And I'm going to do this quick and dirty. I'm going to turn off this snap because it's pissing me off. In my case, I'm going to do it quick and dirty and just cover this up. I'm actually going to also make this red, just because it's easier to look at while you're doing this. And normally I'm a lot more tedious about this. I usually actually like properly trace. Actually, you know what? Let me do this way instead. Let's not be too freaking lazy. This is still bad, but it's still quicker than the other method. So what you're going to do is you're going to come in here, select that. We're going to kill the stroke. We're going to do a fill of white. But then, when you get your foot layer back, that's the area you can't put anything in. That's your no zone. So, when you want to create things in your copper, you put it into the black with white, and you got to remember to flip it. So I'm just gonna say Bigfoot was here, and I intentionally am spelling this wrong. What was the love monster? Here we go. 255, 255, 255. And I'm gonna scale this up a little bit. Probably can't go that high. Oh, I can go a little higher than that. Can I make that bold? Nope. And doing KiCad can be kind of weird about text, so I don't like adding paragraphs. It tends to just not work. I don't know why. And this is like just a basic principle. You can do this. You could do whatever you want. You can add another graphic. You can, in fact, I can embed another. In fact, let me throw in another little Bigfoot. Let me show this. Move to, and this is on the back copper. I'm gonna hide that. I'm gonna make this white. And this is going to be a bit smaller, so I'm going to say 10. It's probably about 10. Yeah, let's increase that a little bit. Let's say 12. Alright, and remember when you do this, you actually got to flip it, because it's not going to read the same. All right, and then we got KiCad open. Yes, we do. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this again, and I'm gonna do the export KiCad again. Close it. Come back into KiCad, and now I'm go ahead and save this. I'm gonna click my part picker, select my browser. And we should have a new back copper layer, and you got all this fresh dope copper that you didn't have before. And what you're going to do is you're going to come in here, you're going to edit it, you're going to change this to a name you can actually find. You're going to pop this in those special coordinates we've been using the whole time. Oh yeah, that was super sloppy on my part. Yeah, I should not have been so sloppy. I know better than that. Okay, not a big deal. Oh, why is my what's with my net here? Why are you doing that? What did I not do? Let's follow you down. Oh, yeah, that's not, no, that's not okay. Yeah, that's not good. Or can I fix that easily? Right here. That's my problem area. So I've got to actually redo this because I screwed this up. But you kind of get the principle of it. But let me fix that mess up first. Ugh. I can't believe I did that. I should have noticed that before. Alright, let me delete this. Yep, you had one. Yeah, sure, whatever. And I'm just gonna do this real quick and dirty. Okay, I can fix it that time, so good. All right, now bring the SVG in, plot, and I actually need to. What's that? I want that, so I'm gonna kill this one. Import it again. Let's go through here. Let's find Bigfoot again. Doesn't actually matter if I remove this, but it makes me feel a little better. So where I messed up is what I'm actually supposed to do, or what you're actually supposed to do, is you need to find. Is it this one? Is that our golden boy? That's our golden boy. You gotta find this. Change the fill to be white. And you gotta change your stroke to be white. And actually, for the moment, I'm going to change this because you still have to fill this area in, which is why I was thinking incorrectly. But I'm going to come at it like this. Fill, make that white, kill the stroke, and what does this? Back copper. I'm just gonna move to the top. It doesn't matter, and change this back to white. Okay. Now what we should have when we unhide this is our perfect shape. All right, there we go. That's what I'm actually looking for. I know what's causing this, but this isn't actually that big of a deal. And export to KiCad again. And in KiCad, we're going to select our part. Edit. Change the name of the part. And we're going to pop in those coordinates. That's it. And you see it. In this case, when you do it perfectly like that, there's no real overlap. And that's assisted by the registration. That's actually one of the bigger things about using these boxes, and when you see, so when you view it in a 3D viewer, you can see those boxes, but it's actually not a big deal, because when you export them out as a Gerber, which we'll do that right now. Let's see this board, Gerber. In a real world scenario, there should be, well, should be a back page. Yeah. And that's right. Plot, and get our drill file. And I actually like to use OshPark as my, as kind of like my, my verifying ground. So, no, don't do that. And I'm gonna Bigfoot Gerbers, and I prefer to date my stuff. Just makes it easier when I'm doing multiple versions. And let's see. We'll go to OshPark, we'll browse for them. And you can use the Gerber view. It's not that there's nothing wrong with using Gerber view built in KiCad. I just like using this. I do both actually. I look at Gerber view and then I look at this because I tend to save these renders. And this is kind of like before I submit them to Fab, I can always like use this to like go, oh no, that's not what I did. But you can see here's where the absence is in the copper layer, and everything still checks out. Now you can clean this up more. You can change the orientation of the silk screen in some areas. That's what I would normally do. And where this through hole is, where these copper pads are, if I was to make this and have it in hand, it would shine through. So, and that's pretty much it. That is, in a massive nutshell, start to finish, my process. I usually spend a lot more time on the concept, and then the board comes together pretty quickly. I've done so many different designs using basically the exact same schematic at this point that it's all the same. So, and this is actually a pretty big board. It's really tall. But yeah, there's not that many people watching, but and if you have any questions in chat, now's a good time to go ahead and ask. Alright, it looks like there's no questions in chat, so that's going to be it for me, guys. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. If you have any questions, just feel free to just tweet at me at Mr. Twinkle Twink. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to snag Twinkle Twinkie. There's another Twinkle Twinkie that bastard is just sitting on that name, not using it. But if you have any questions or anything like that, let me know. And keep an eye on my Twitter. I should be I have some stuff coming up that I'm pretty excited to show off once I actually get it produced. I'm trying out a different fab house for my next thing I do. It's kind of a cost savings thing, but I don't know. I might decide to do something less important through them. But yeah, if you have any questions or anything like that, let me know. Guys, have a good night. I appreciate you watching. Take care.